Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. I don't know how you guys heard about this, but it means a lot that you're here. My name is Noah Kocher. I am a collage artist, painter, multimedia, lots of different kinds of stuff. I'm not going to do a whole lot of talking, but I did want to just kind of briefly talk about like what collage means to me personally and how I got into it. And then I put together a little slide deck kind of thing, just showing some of my pieces and then like the processes that I went through in creating them. And then that folder that's right there actually coincides with this slide deck. And it just talks, once the same thing, same content, just talks about how I made the pieces and stuff. So yeah, collage, I got into it probably like 5 or 6 years ago. I kind of just stumbled upon actually Nat Geo's. I stumbled upon it. I think someone just had some for free and I just grabbed onto them and then really liked the images in them. Never made collage before in my entire life. Really liked the imagery, cut it up, made some new stuff out of it. And I was like really, really excited about it. And then my partner at the time, a few months after that, found someone that was giving away like 600 National Geographics just for free. And then once that happened, that just like collage pretty much just became my thing. Like it just became my bread and butter. So yeah, between that time and between now, I feel like I've learned a lot as far as like what collage means to me and what it does for me. For me personally, I don't know if other collage artists can relate to this, but I feel like when I make a collage, as I'm in the process of creating it, I'm not really like aware of what it means or like why I'm creating it. But once it's finished and I like discover what the title is going to be, then it's like an aha moment where I'm like, oh, like that's what this collage is saying to me. It's kind of like talking to me. Similar way of painting. Like I kind of do the same thing when I'm painting. It's just kind of like random and sporadic. And then it kind of just, the meaning kind of reveals itself to me as I'm creating it. So yeah, collage is a really special medium to me personally. I've been doing it for a while. And once again, like the fact that you guys are here and wanting to be a part of this and interested in learning how to do this stuff, means a lot to my heart. And I'm so glad you're here. So I'm going to keep it pretty short. I just have 10 little pictures and I'm going to talk about some of these pieces that I created and what they mean and stuff and how I created them. So let's start from the first one. So this one, as you can see, there's some words, and I tried to create like a narrative within the imagery. And when I say like-minded imagery, I mean like there's two seemingly men/boys, and I try to say young again, as in like maybe he's reflecting on his past self and missing his old self or being nostalgic or something like that. For this one, I really tried to create like a frame within the piece and give it some like structure, like right in the center. And with the mixed media background, you'll kind of see that that's like a common theme in these pieces. I feel like a lot of the art, I end up just kind of doing a lot of sporadic, abstract background and sometimes even bring that into the foreground and then put the collage on top of that. I feel like it gives it this like nice mixed media approach where you have a lot of different textures and things to look at. And then I said fits together like a puzzle piece. I feel like you can kind of see that. Like it kind of just all makes sense together. And I wanted to make a point to say don't be afraid to move stuff around until you get a composition that you like. For collage, it's like very much like a puzzle. Like you kind of have to like move it around until it works. Like eventually it'll work. You'll see it and you'll be like, oh, that's it. That's going to be it. I like that. For this one, as you can see, very minimal imagery. And the contrast between the multiple lines moving in different directions, like in the background and then the rainbow. And I don't know if you can see from there, but there's also lines on the outfits. I feel like it's a nice contrast between all the different lines going in the different directions. And the minimal use of color, I feel like that kind of just gives like a lot more power to the color. It makes your eye kind of stare at the color because there's not a lot of it. And then for this one, something that I actually see as a common theme in a lot of collages, not just myself, I feel like removing body parts is a pretty common theme. I feel like there's a lot of room for experimentation whenever you remove like a head or an arm, or like just cut out the arm and then use that arm somewhere else. You know what I mean? There's just a lot of different ways that you can experiment with that. And then for this one, I wanted to say like, I tried to let the background kind of have its own moment, which elevates this piece as a whole. I feel like without this background, I feel like this piece wouldn't really hit the same. I feel like the background kind of makes it. This one's definitely quite different than the other pieces I shared. This one's a lot more abstract, not so much representational. And I feel like this is a fun way to create collages because you don't have to be so intentional about it. You can just like find a texture that you really like or a pattern that you really like, and then just take some paper that you drew on and just kind of cut it up and like do whatever you really want with it. It doesn't have to be so literal. And that opens the door for it to be open to interpretation. It doesn't have to be so obvious. If it's more abstract, it can mean anything. For this one, another common theme you'll see in collages is like very clean-cut imagery. I feel like when you look through these magazines, you'll see like just like objects that you can easily cut out. Pay attention to that. Use that, cut it out, put it to the side, save it for later. Eventually, you'll find what it needs to be used for. For this one, I wanted to also say the background, I feel like really helps make this piece pop. It's pretty simple, like there's not a whole lot going on, but I feel like it was just enough to make that the window and the hands just kind of like pop off the piece a little bit. For this one, I always think it's fun experimenting with multiple faces, and finding portraits of different people and kind of like blending them together in a way. That can mean anything to you guys, like whatever that means for you, it's open to interpretation. Also for this one, something else that in general, not even just for this piece, but something to remember, rip it up, like rip the paper, see what happens. Like there's a lot of room for experimentation whenever you rip the paper, even if it's an accident. I've made pieces that I ripped it by accident and I find that being like an important part of the piece. I feel like when you rip an image, it gives it a new life and it gives it also a new texture that you can work with. So ripping is not a bad thing. Like ripping, there's a lot of room for new experimentation when you rip stuff. For this one, as you can see, I try to be very intentional with like complementary colors and colors that go well together, and layering as well. Like this blue piece is the background, obviously, and then the yellow is a whole separate piece of paper, and then the imagery on top of it, and then even more imagery on top of that. I just feel like there's a lot of layers to this one, whereas some of the other ones were a little more simple. And like I was saying, blending illustration with collage, like this background is all my illustration. And then within the middle, except that small black and white, like rectangular thing in the center, that's like more illustration. So I don't know, just kind of jumping back and forth between collage, illustration can be a fun way to experiment with collage. Don't be afraid to just like draw stuff and then throw it in a collage, or just draw on top of the collage, which I think is the next one. Yeah. So for this one, I actually drew directly on the magazine page, which is another really fun way to create collages. And it also opens a lot of doors for just anything to happen. One simple yet effective cut, I also feel like can be really strong in a collage whenever you cut something that isn't so perfect or something like that. Don't overthink it, go with your gut. I'd say that that's a really important thing to remember with collage in general, is to not overthink it. Like at the end of the day, this is just like supposed to be fun. Like it's not super serious. Just go with what feels right. And if you like it, it'll look good. So this one's definitely a little more complex than the other pieces. But there was a reason why I wanted to share this one. I wanted to share scale, which I think is really important in collage. And when I mean scale, I mean that those people that were walking at the bottom, in comparison to the whole piece, they're quite a lot smaller than everything else. So it gives it this sense that they're small and everything else is much bigger, which is what scale means. And then building a composition with a wide variety of imagery. You'll see in a lot of these magazines that there's a lot of like really cool imagery. Don't be afraid to like cut little sections out and build a brand new composition onto a piece of paper or a magazine page or whatever. Yeah, and like I just said, visually stimulating imagery, like that's what the old mags are known for. That's it. Thanks everybody. I try to keep it short. All right, have fun, go crazy.